Hello and welcome to presentation of the recent report on media and information literacy activities, trends and needs within the Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps youth programs in 2021. When working on these projects, we were curious to understand how do the youth field stakeholders approach media information literacy, what thematic areas of MIL present an interest to them and which ones do not. So we identified and explored the gaps in MIL within the EU youth programs. In the process, we discovered 18 good practices as well as several key areas that we would like to cover in this presentation. Based on the findings and analysis, we developed recommendations for youth field stakeholders and SALTO PI on how to support and encourage MIL skills. We looked at the links between MIL and youth participation areas in order to find the important connections between the two. Also, we hope that our findings will encourage you to more evidence-based action. The report was published by SALTO Participation and Information Resource Center in Tallinn this year, and it was published by using the funds of the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. Special thanks should be given to the Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps national agencies from Estonia, the Netherlands, Spain, Austria and Belgium, Flanders for supporting the creation of this report. Now here, let's see the team behind the project. A contracted researcher, Miguel Lopez, who was responsible for gathering and mapping the existing youth projects available in the Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps databases from the last year. Meelika, Hirmo, Media and Information Literacy Coordinator at SALTO PI, who led our project, and myself being responsible for gathering the primary research data and analyzing the findings. The three of us are very proud to be sharing our findings with you today, and we hope that it will be useful for you in your media information literacy study visit. Let's dive in. First, I would like to show you our process. The data has been collected in three main activities. First was the mapping. The mapping task included the research for MIL-related projects in the Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps databases. Then those researched projects were clustered around the defined MIL areas, and then we did a qualitative analysis of a representative sample of the 60 projects. Then, in stage 2, we gathered insights from the national agencies and field stakeholders through an online survey. And finally, in stage 3, we hosted focus interviews with a smaller focus group. And here's what we found. First, you will see a huge table in front of you right now. This table is also in our full-length report that you can access later on. But here I just want to highlight a few things for you, so it will be easy to read. First, media information literacy in the Erasmus Plus program is primarily represented through the two key actions: youth participation activities and cooperation partnerships in youth. In those two key actions, every third project is focused on MIL, and that's a great indicator. Next, I want to talk about developing digital youth work. It appears to be the top priority for the Key Action 2 projects, and is also very popular among the projects in mobility of youth workers. Next, key finding was that European Solidarity core projects tend to focus more on digital skills and competences, and so do the Erasmus Plus projects under mobility of young people. It is also the area that received the most number of all MIL-focused projects across the both EU programs. Now let's talk about MIL and youth participation. I said that we've evaluated 60 youth projects across both programs. In those projects, we saw that MIL focus was prominent in 50% of youth participation projects and vice versa. We think that this very significant relationship might have been accentuated by the pandemic. However, this trend seems to be a very clear one and that it will continue in the future. Also, critical thinking appears to be the transversal, horizontal competence that is relevant and often present in both kinds of projects. Other observations that we made throughout the research were that MIL is a precondition for effective and inclusive youth participation. It is necessary to develop MIL competences among the young people, but particularly with those with fewer opportunities, those from minority groups, those living in rural areas, or those that are victims of discrimination. The projects in our evaluation shown us that this can be successfully done through campaigning for social inclusion, for example, or placing the young people in employment. Especially employment and youth work here is important where the young people can get their hands on the creative tools like music, arts, video, and podcasts, or social media platforms. These tools create new ways of expression for those young people and are ideal for groups of young people who are not just socially excluded, but are stigmatized and stereotyped online. Now, speaking about online, it is necessary to mention e-participation or digital participation, whichever way you want. And this includes online debates, consultations, decision-making processes, campaigns, and virtual democratic spaces. Launching activities like this in your project means automatically engaging young audience in using and developing MIL competencies. Now I have prepared some special go-to advice for you at the MIL study visit. Here, the first one would be about European Solidarity Corps. So for the volunteering and solidarity projects here, we unfortunately lacked the data on the volunteering projects. But from what we can say by looking only on the solidarity project is that there were too few MIL-related cases among them. And the program itself has a great potential to have more MIL projects. Right now, only 5 projects in the solidarity, among the solidarity projects, is focused on MIL. And among them, we couldn't find any that would place a focus on the digital content, technologies, and practices aspect of MIL. So keep that in mind when you'll be thinking what to do for your project. The next one would be my comment on Erasmus Plus Key Action 2 projects. And here, the major gaps in MIL are present in digital safety, ICT, and media literacy and tackling information thematic areas. According to the data we received, there is a complete absence of projects in digital safety and ICT in the small-scale partnerships in youth, for example. Here, I would also like to mention that from the data we got through the interviews, it was voiced that the Key Action 2 project should target specialist organizations. They should strive to include specific niche organizations that deal specifically with MIL-related issues. We learned that usually KA2 applicants are the generic youth NGOs and youth centers who may benefit from collaboration with those experienced and competent partners who already have the necessary education resources to offer. The same comment goes regard to formal education institutions, as well as teachers. There might not always be aware of the existence of the specific organizations and resources on MEL. Now, here another very important point for you to consider is media landscape. And no matter which program you wish to apply to, media landscape is a thematic area that you can really focus on. But what do we mean really by media landscape? Maybe not all of you are aware of the term. Well, let's take young people. For them, the internet is primarily a social space, a place to meet up, communicate, and get in touch with the like-minded people. They form online communities, use popular apps, play games, and form more communities around those games, and so on. It's a whole ecosystem. Their habits and tools are very different from what their parents have. And let's not forget that in all of this, the young people are not the only player. There are also media outlets, political promoters, advertisers, government regulators, and so on. All of them are competing with each other for the consumer's attention. This all is the spicy mix of media landscape thematic area. And if you would like to learn more about this, you should check out the SALTO participation resource pool. They have a whole page on media landscape. Now let's move to the last point on this slide, which is promoting and cooperation to tackle radicalization. Here, I think we can all agree that counteraction is needed to prevent and minimize radicalization, hate speech, and exclusion of anyone from democratic participation. However, according to the data we've collected from the conducted focus group interviews, many NGOs who want to help, for example, Ukrainian youth, often just simply face an obstacle of not having enough understanding and concrete ideas of what would work in the long term. So guidance and second thought is required for questions such as what should be in the focus for the next 2 years? Media landscape, information search, source verification, understanding disinformation campaigns, and so on. With this in mind, for example, the European Youth Information and Counseling Agency, ERICA, that you might know, started a project where the young refugees tried to find out what information needs refugees have and what would be the best ways to provide to those needs. The findings were shared with the information providers through the webinars where they can meet and collaborate with the young people, and it was pretty successful. Other examples mentioned mentioned to us included, for example, Finland raising the amount of available news translated into Russian in order to ensure that the Russian speakers in Finland receive information other than what is being streamed to them by the Russian government. Another one would be also Finland running vaccination campaigns with its Somali diaspora in order to tackle misinformation about COVID vaccines. Another example would be Ireland mentioning youth projects that target migrant youth and young people from the travelers minority. So cases like this can really open up some ideas to you, and if you would want more inspiration, you should definitely again check the full length of this research, which includes the 18 great practices. Now let's go into universal advice that I have to all of you. First one would be focus on young people's profile and needs. When it comes to defining what makes a quality project, the survey data shows complete agreement on putting the needs of the audience first. Any group of people a youth worker is engaging with has its own specific qualities and demands. For example, young people in Germany today go through basic cybersecurity education as part of their basic school program. Hence, it's been suggested that certain aspects of the safer internet thematic area of MIL may not be so relevant for such an age group. Therefore, age, experience, interests, school system, all of those are aspects any youth worker should take into account before planning any activities. Here, I also can give you some questions to think about. So, who is my audience? Do I understand their needs? What is their age? What is their background? What are their daily challenges? What do they know about media and technology? And what do they use themselves? And most importantly, sometimes to ask, what do they see as cool to use and what is old school? Now, the next point on this slide would be experiment with various audiences. Young mothers, for example, has been the target audience of one of the projects in our review. The positive outcome of such a project was its impactfulness, and both on the lives of the mothers and on the broadened awareness of the young people involved in the project. Also, explore technologies and design new experiences. Think of the mighty tools we use every day without realizing their potential. A smartphone, for example, or a tablet. Even a basic one has access to a myriad of applications and can make young creators very excited. Remember that MIL skills are trained both through engaging with the content and creating it. Ask around and involve knowledgeable people from other professions, technology enthusiasts and MIL trainers to come and show the new tools, or let the young people take the lead. They really can know better sometimes. Also, it's important that whatever your core area is, you try to find out how it translates into MIL perspective. For example, as this current report has shown us, there is a close mutual connection between youth participation and MIL. So use the powerful resources of the MIL section, for example, on the participation resource pool, together with your young people to delve deeper into those MIL aspects that apply to your specific needs, be it, for example, hate speech or media content creation. Also, critical thinking, where can we go without that? Critical thinking as a concept and a skill gets a great deal of attention in youth projects and overall. We saw that it's a cross-horizontal competence in both. However, to some people, it may still be quite just a flashy word, too vague to thoroughly understand. So what can we do? Well, we can, for example, introduce and practice the skill with subject matter experts. Or another way would be to place our audience into cross-border projects, as it seems from our interviews findings that critical thinking is better understood in international contexts, which facilitate young people's learning and use of critical thinking. Also, perhaps just look around and adopt the tried and tested practices. Say you listened to my presentation carefully today and now want to do a solidarity project on MIL. Here is where experience from, for example, your Finnish colleagues may be very helpful to you. Based on what the Finnish National Agency representatives told us, the solidarity projects in Finland successfully integrate MIL, especially if they are related to representation and inclusion. So don't be shy. Take this report and look through the best practices that might give you quite some inspiration. And then why not to reach out to the project teams behind them. Well, in general, if we set ourselves on a mission to advance MIL in the long term, we have to work in silos and help each other create better guidelines and project ideas. SALTO PI in this regard is seen and will serve you as a nexus for encouraging youth work and the links between MIL stakeholders and youth work, as well as mainstreaming MIL through versatile cross-topic campaigns. You have a quite unique opportunity right now to meet SALTO representatives right where you are, so do approach them and propose any ideas, any cooperation ideas that you have in mind. Sailing along this course will eventually lead us to the day when MIL will become an EU youth priority and will be closely woven into other priority topics, prompting more emphasis and motivation from relevant stakeholders to plan and engage in long-term MIL activities. With this in mind, I'd like to conclude my presentation for today. And please take some time to read the full-length report where you will find the summary of the 18 youth projects, which we call the good practices. And if you would like to refresh your memory of the key points, please read through the two-pager with the report summary that you now have in your hands, probably, and get access to the full-length report.